Hi, a very good evening to all. At the very onset, I would like to thank Krishna sir and the whole team of CCI for giving me this opportunity. I'll be taking this opportunity to discuss with you the ninth TNM staging and the role of IBUS in current carcinoma lung staging. So, coming to ninth TNM staging, first of all, what all has been changed? So, whatever had been the significant changes that had been proposed in 8th edition, they have been extensively validated. There have been subdivision of N2, which is the important component, and a subdivision of M component. We will come to and see why it is. So this is the first ninth edition that has come up. So N2 has been split into N2A and N2B. So what is N2A? That only one single station on N2 is involved. And N2B is multiple stations. Similarly, in M1A and B, there is no difference. But in M1C, there is another difference, as in that M1C1 is single organ system. So, what do I mean by single organ system? Single organ system is basically if a patient has medicine, ribs, vertebra, femur, this is all one bone system, one organ system, which is bone. However, if the patient has mets in both bone and the liver, then it becomes two organ system. So it becomes multiple organ system. Similarly, multiple mets in the liver will again become single organ system. Okay. So why have they done these changes? These changes has been done because we are having a more refined approach towards treatment of lung cancer now, and also because of these two recommendations. See, our first goal is always to make sure if we can cut out all the cancer and remove it, if we can push the patient for a surgery. And these are the two guidelines which specifically says that if you have a non-fixed, non-bulky single zone N2, then you should consider surgery. And similarly, the NCCN, BTCS, SCTS, NCCN, they all favor that if there's a single station non-bulky N2. That's why which is the N2A now. You have to consider patient for surgery. So this is the new classification and staging. As you can see, there has been some changes and there have been some downgrading because of N2A and N2B. So why is this important? Why are we talking about this? So as you might see in this slide, anything up to N0 and even N2 single is resectable, and even N2 multi is a resectable disease. Anything which is resectable is potentially a curable cancer. If you speak to a surgeon, they say we have now started treating cancer as a chronic disease. It's a disease which is going to be stay for a long time. So who can you offer a cure to? You can offer a cure to the patient if you can cut away the disease and offer it. Also, to communicate the type of testing, the extensive testing that has been done, they have also added a evaluation categorization criteria. Which means whatever has been the highest level of assessment that has been used at the notes, that has to be mentioned. And what are these stages? E1 is physical. Maybe you can see a lump and it is malignant. E2 is imaging. Maybe you have seen it from the PET scan. Maybe on MRI you are seeing a lesion in the brain lesion. So that would be E2. E3 is tissue. Tissue could be obtained anyway. It could be invasive testing, which could be cytology, which we are doing in IBUS, or it could be histopathology like a core biopsy. And E4 is resection related. So you have to mention. So like T2B, N2A, M0, E3A means that to assess the N2A node status, we have used the E3 approach, which is we have not just relied on PET scan. We have gone a stage ahead and we have done an invasive sampling and we have done endobronchial ultrasound. Okay. So what are the other key strengths of this ninth TNM staging? First of all, 56% of patient database is from Asia and Australia, which is a huge, huge achievement. It is more representative and inclusive of movement. Second, one point we need to remember it doesn't apply to sarcomas and lymphomas. So coming to the changes. So I'll be starting from the highest stage. So M1. M1 is intrathoracic mets, we all know. M1B is single extrathoracic mets, single liver mets. M1C1, multiple mets in single organ system. So as I discussed, three mets in the liver will be M1C1. And M1C2 would be multiple mets in multiple organ system. So why are we coming to this concept of single organ system and multiple organ system? It is because of the component of oligometastatic disease. What is oligometastatic disease? That maybe if you have, let's say, a patient who is T2N0 M1B or maybe M1C1, he just has liver mets. So you can offer a resection for the liver mets as well as the lung. That's why we are moving towards this concept of oligometastatic disease. Second major change has been the extension of nodal involvement has to be very much delineated. There has to be assessment of at least 6 nodes, and this should include the subcarinal node and mediastinal and hilar nodes. They are very specific about it now, and we will see it. Why is it important when we are doing the EBUS staging? The third major change that this classification TNM staging got was the concept of multiple lung cancer. So based on this, they have made a clinical criteria. So how do you know whether these two tumors, so maybe you are seeing a right upper lobe nodule and a right lower lobe nodule. How do you know whether they are the same cancers or whether their patient is having de novo field changes and patient has developed two different cancers? So there is a clinical criteria and a pathological criteria in which they should be of, if you have to consider it a secondary, if they are of different histological points and they have different breakup points on genomic hybridization. So now comes the concept of secondary synchronous second primary lung cancer. So patient has two different lung cancers, unfortunately, at the same time. In this, the second primary lung cancer has to be designated with this separate T, N, and M for each of the tumor. And each can be potentially resected separately. So that's why the more the need for thorough assessment of the mediastinum. Second pattern is multiple ground glass nodules, which is the most common disease pattern, and it is a very slow growing indolent cancer which doesn't progress over the 5 to 10 years. So they can be ground glass, they can have some solid component, and you can mention the number by the bracket M of the largest size. And we all know Fleischner guidelines, how to follow the multiple nodules. So if they are less than 6 millimeters, CT at 3 to 6 months. If they are at more than 6 millimeter, then subsequent management is based on the most suspicious nodule. Third type is the diffuse pneumonic type. And why have this thing come up? Because of the concept of non-resolving pneumonia. If you go and see your own practice, you might find that 5 to 10% of non-resolving pneumonias might turn out to be malignant. And because of this concept of diffuse pneumonic type has come. The fourth and a very interesting one is the lung cancer with the air lucency. You see a harmless cyst, but you follow up the patient and the cyst is slowly growing. It is becoming slowly thicker. It has developed a eccentric component or it has become a satellite nodule. So what do? You sample it. It's important because these can be carcinoma, and this was also identified by the ACR lung RATS criteria. So here they have shown three categories, A1, A2, A3, and of these, the multilocular cysts have 20% possibility of being malignant. Okay, so these are the four types of multiple synchronous cancers. As we have seen, they can be in the form of multifocal ground glass nodules. They could be a secondary separate primary lung cancer, tumor nodule, or diffuse pneumonic type. So atypical pulmonary cyst, as I was going about, can also be classified by the lung RATS classification, and they have to be appropriately followed with a low dose CT. Now coming to the role of EBUS, how is it a game changer in this whole staging study? So we all know endobronchial ultrasound is basically you have an ultrasound loaded on a bronchoscope and you are using it to scan the airway and look for the pathology. This is how a needle comes out of it. This is how a node looks. So coming to the most important diagram. So because we have a lot of PGs in this seminar, I would like to take a moment and discuss this chart. And most important, if you ask me what should you remember in this whole chart, you need to remember the vascular boundaries. Like on the left, it is the arch of aorta. So arch of aorta helps to delineate between 2L and 4L. And for 4L and 10L, it is the pulmonary artery. Similarly, for 10R and 4R, the boundaries azygous vein. So if you have to remember just three words, remember aorta, pulmonary artery, azygous vein. On the left, you take the upper border of the vessel. On the right, you take the lower border of the vessel. So, where el where all can you put your Ibusco? So, there are two ways you can use your Ibusco. You can pass it orally and go into the airway, and you can pass it orally, ask the patient to swallow it, and go into esophagus. Once you go into esophagus, you can sample some additional notes, which is 8, 9, and you can also sample the liver mets, you can sample the left adrenal mets. So, what all notes can you sample once you have seen, once you have a IBUS? So, you can combine the IBUS and EUS modality, and as you can see from this chart, you can do maximum notes. I mean, even you can do 5 and 6 with the transvascular approach. So that is how it makes the surgeon redundant. And I'll be apologizing to Dr. Mohan for saying that. But that is the level of freedom it has given us. So coming to what else you see the sonographic features, which is the long axis, short axis, with what is the shape, what is the margins, whether there are distinct margins. Distinct margins are defined as more than half the margins are visible. So these are the features which can help you. They can have some sensitivity and specificity in identifying whether it is a malignant node or a benign node. So another important sign is the coagulation necrosis sign, hypoechoic areas where there is no blood flow, which means that coagulation necrosis signs are present, and the vascular pattern. Whether if you have a lot of aberrantly developed vessel, it again goes toward malignant node. And if the newer machines also have the elastography, so which measures the stiffness of the node. So again, it helps that you are supposed to sample the most stiff area. Okay. So now coming to the how do you go about sampling? So you need to know what is N1, N2, and N3. So how do we start? We start with the N3 node, then we go to the N2, and then we go to the N1. Why we are going to N3 node first? So that if your N3 node is positive on rows, then the patient has already upstaged. You need not go and do the staging of N2 and N1. Secondly, you want to prevent the contamination. Let's see, you have a patient who has N1 node positive. Now you are using the same needle on the N2 and N3 because of the cost issue. So there is a possibility of contamination, and you will be falsely upgrading the patient to a higher stage. So for a right-sided lymph node, right-sided lung mass, you need to remember that 4R is a N2 node. 4R and 2R is a N2 node. Similarly, for a left-sided lesion, 2L, 4L, 5 and 6 are the N2 lesions. So another point, what we need to see when we are doing this is how do you handle the tissue. So this is a guideline by ACCP. So they have suggested that you can either use spatial media or you can use the current alcohol-based methods. They have suggested using rows. They have suggested using smaller needles of 21 gauze and 22 gauze because they have seen that the amount of DNA material that you get in a smaller needle is much higher. And they recommend performing at least 4 needle passes. So I have spoken so much now. I have made you people go to sleep. But why am I speaking about it? Because why do you need a mediastinal staging? See, especially in the absence of an extrathoracic disease, in a contralateral lung disease, on a pleural cavity meds, you have to assess the mediastinum to know whether the disease is operable or not. And let me tell you, 40% of nodes that seems malignant by CT are benign, and 20% that you feel, no, this is just a benign node, less than 1 centimeter, they turn out to be malignant. So CT has a very bad sensitivity and a specificity. It has a sensitivity of only 51%. And that's why mediastinal staging becomes really important. And someone might say, Mom, what about PET? If you're seeing a PET avid node, does that again mean that it can be non-malignant? And yes, the answer is yes. The specificity of PET scan is only 85% with a sensitivity of 74%. So there is a, there is a 6 to 30% prevalence where patient might be having normal mediastinum by imaging, but you do a IBUS and multiple studies have shown that they are malignant. So just because you are seeing a non-FDG with node doesn't mean you do not go for sampling. Every patient has to be thoroughly sampled. And this was again being reiterated in the Asia Pacific Journal of Clinical Oncology. Dr. Batra is an Indian oncologist who presented this wonderful guideline. And again, they have recommended, especially in the stage 3 non-small cell lung cancer, you have to go for a IBIS. Okay. So now coming to one last topic, which is the oxygenation during IBIS. At times, what we find that these patients are very fragile and they are not in a condition to do IBIS. So this was a small study by us, which got published in Monaldi, and it shows that you can put the patient on a HFNC, and even in the high risk patient, you can do IBIS comfortably in these patients without increasing the hypercapnia. Thank you very much for your patient listening. And now I will pass the baton to Dr. Atul Jain, who will be discussing the further intricacies and nitty-gritty of this staging procedure. Thank you. Thank you so much.